The starship Stargazer was a silver needle stitching its way through the black velvet of space. Inside, Aella was on the final leg of her long journey home. After 5 years charting distant nebulae, the thought of Earth, of blue skies and real rain, was a comforting hum beneath the ship's quiet thrum. Suddenly, a shrill alert cut through the calm. A red light flashed on her console, a frantic pulse in the quiet dark. It was a signal, raw and unexpected, from an uncharted sector far from the established space lanes. Her fingers flew across the console, isolating and amplifying the transmission. It wasn't random noise. It was a distress beacon, an ancient, repeating sequence of prime numbers, the universal language of a mind in need. A plea for help. A course projection materialized beside the signal analysis. To intercept, she would have to divert, burning through weeks of time and precious fuel reserves. It was a ghost, perhaps an echo from a long-dead ship. Continuing home was the logical choice. But logic had little to do with it. Aella had spent years listening to the silent stories of the cosmos, but this was a voice. Faint, desperate, and real. She couldn't turn her back on it. With a deep breath, she laid in the new course. The Stargazer banked gracefully, its engines glowing a brilliant blue as it veered away from the path to Earth. The familiar constellations of home swung out of view, replaced by a dense, unfamiliar starfield. The journey had just become much longer. The days bled into weeks. She flew past the skeletal remains of dead suns and through clouds of interstellar dust that glittered like jewels. The signal grew stronger, a steady, lonely heartbeat pulling her deeper into the unknown. At last, her long-range sensors found the source. It was not a ship. It was a colossal, derelict space station tangled in the gravitational pull of a dying red dwarf star. It was ancient, silent, and utterly alien. She guided the Stargazer on a cautious approach. The station's hull was not metal, but a biomechanical shell, scarred and pitted by millennia of micrometeoroids. Gaping wounds revealed a dark, silent interior. Whatever had happened here, it had happened long ago. Life sign scans came back empty. The station was a tomb, yet the distress beacon continued its rhythmic pulse, a ghost in the machine, calling out from the station's core. Docking was too risky. The station's structure could be unstable. She would have to investigate remotely. Aella powered up her most reliable tool for exploration, a small, nimble drone she called the Firefly. The Firefly detached from the Stargazer and zipped towards a massive breach in the station's hull. Aella's cockpit screens flickered to life with the drone's camera feed, her window into the silent structure. The drone's lights sliced through the gloom, revealing vast, cavernous chambers. Strange, withered, plant-like structures clung to the walls like dead ivy. Dust motes, undisturbed for ages, danced in the drone's beams. The silence was absolute. Following the signal's path, the drone navigated through a maze of corridors to a central biosphere. In the very middle of the chamber, cradled by withered metallic vines, was a large, crystalline pod. It glowed with a faint, pulsing light, the source of the beacon. The drone's bioscanners activated, probing the pod. Aella's breath caught in her throat. Inside, suspended in a translucent gel, was a single life form. It was in deep stasis, but it was alive. The station had one survivor. A new alert flashed on her screen. Pod power failure imminent. The beacon wasn't just a call for help. It was a countdown. The pod's energy was nearly depleted. The survivor's life support was failing. She had to get the occupant out. The pod was too large to bring aboard, but she couldn't leave the survivor behind. There was only one option, a dangerous ship-to-pod transfer. With painstaking precision, Aella maneuvered the stargazer closer, extending the ship's delicate manipulator arms. Guided by the Firefly's cameras, she began the terrifyingly complex process of interfacing with the alien pod's systems. After a tense hour, she bypassed the external lock. A seam of light appeared on the pod, and a transparent canopy slowly retracted. The being inside was revealed. It was humanoid in shape, but its body was composed of soft, shifting light. Aella raced to her ship's medical bay. Working quickly, she recalibrated the diagnostic bed, turning its containment field into a temporary stasis chamber. It was a procedure based on theory, one she had never imagined she would have to use. With the stasis field ready, she initiated the transfer. A shimmering beam of energy extended from her ship, enveloping the being of light. Gently, it lifted the dormant figure from its failing cradle and drew it across the void into the stargazer. With the survivor safely aboard, the distress beacon from the ancient station finally fell silent. Aella piloted the stargazer away, leaving the great tomb to its lonely orbit around its dying star. Her rescue mission was complete. In the medical bay, the lumen being slept peacefully in its new sanctuary. Aella watched the gentle currents of light that made up its form. She had saved a life, but she was now the guardian of a being from a civilization unknown to humanity. Her simple journey home was over. This was a new mission. She plotted the fastest possible course to Earth, her fingers flying across the nav computer. Then she composed a message to Flight Command, an urgent, encrypted report about her discovery and her extraordinary passenger. The stargazer surged forward, accelerating towards the distant promise of home. Aella glanced from the sleeping star traveler on her monitor to the vast cosmos outside her window. Her detour had cost her time, but it had given her a new purpose: to bring home a secret that would change the universe for her people forever.